Welcome back to Healthcare Rounds, your insider access to the healthcare industry. I'm John Marchica, CEO of Darwin Research Group. Today, we're diving into specialty pharmacy, one of the hottest areas in healthcare delivery, with someone who's been at the forefront of building high-performing health system-owned programs. And my guest is Jigar Tucker, CEO of Longitude Rx, a company working with leading health systems to reimagine specialty pharmacy operations through technology, data, and integrated care. So first, Jigar, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, John. Really appreciate the invite.
So let's get to the journey question, right? I always like to start these off with where have you been and how did you get here and sitting in the seat that you are now. So maybe just a little bit of a background to get us started.
Yeah, definitely. So Jigar Tucker, CEO of Longitude Rx, really started as a pharmacist. By training, I'm a pharmacist by background. I started really in the front lines of pharmacy. I was lucky enough to really get the opportunity by my first manager to really work in all different types of all different areas of pharmacy, and was very lucky to be exposed to the many different areas, the many different challenges that people experience when it comes to their medications. And so, really, quickly jumped into the administrative side. I grew up in Chicago, worked at health systems in Chicago, like Rush University Medical Center, and really just, progressed into really pharmacy leadership roles as well as health system leadership roles. I was really lucky to find this current opportunity, Longitude RX, because it truly, came at the intersection of the things that I'm interested in: technology, healthcare operations, and really helping mission-driven healthcare organizations with business models that are actually able to sustain their missions.
Well, I got to say, I mean, I started us off by saying it's an exciting area, but in general, just the intersection of technology and pharmacy and how organizations like yours are really pulling off um, some great stuff. We're going to get into that here in a second, but um, let's just talk generally to start, Jigar, and thinking about health system or IDN owned specialty pharmacies. I'm sure that it has its own, kind of issues, right? So what are some of the challenges that health systems face when running their own specialty pharmacy? What are the big things, big problems that leaders face?
Yeah, great question. So, specialty pharmacy, I think, as you know, not only an exciting area, but super complex and really fast growing area of pharmacy. And as these health systems are trying to essentially meet the needs of their patients who are on these specialty medications, what you realize is there is a lot of disconnect that becomes really visible. Clinicians are the ones seeing the patients, they're caring for the patients, they're prescribing these complex medications. But then everything else that happens after that, in terms of all the different decisions that are happening for that patient and for that medication to actually be dispensed, those decisions and economics are really being managed by outside entities that are really removed from that patient care, right? So there's a huge disconnect between the clinician side and those managing these different types of decisions, and that's creating a complexity for these health systems that for me really is an exciting challenge to really look at and help solve, but really assist health systems who are struggling with meeting the needs of their patients ultimately.
So one of the things I've heard from speaking with folks in this area previously, in fact, we had a pretty substantial IDN owned specialty pharmacy research project that we did just a couple of years ago. There's this notion that you can bridge that gap better than anybody else, right? If it's part of the system, you've got the specialty pharmacy that's owned by the system, you can provide better patient care because you're kind of connected through the whole process, right? But still, I think there are challenges on the execution side, and maybe we can get just. I'm jumping ahead here, but I'm interested into how does Longitude RX help address some of those challenges to improve patient care and really help with that continuum that you talked about, where you can run into problems.
Yeah, and I'll kind of just describe a personal example that really illustrates the different challenges and why the health system side I think is really better equipped to do this, and then how Longitude RX ultimately is planning on intervening here to really help those health systems really successfully be the owners of this patient journey. But really, let's start with the specific example. So my mother was diagnosed at a very early age with primary CNS lymphoma. So really a brain cancer that essentially needed chemotherapy for treatment, right? So very complex, diagnosis. She was actually being seen at one of the top health systems in the country in Chicago, an academic health system. And really, when she was prescribed, and this is, a very similar example to what many patients experience and many patients' families experience. But when she was prescribed her chemotherapy, there was a couple rounds of IV chemotherapy that she received in the hospital. And then, following that, there was multiple cycles of, therapy that she was receiving per a clinical trial that she was a part of. Right. And, once she was prescribed that, we as a family were told, okay, this is, really the care plan that she's going to be on. These are the things that you're going to need to do on your side as a family to make sure that she's on this care plan. And then really kind of, told to go home essentially, right? After that diagnosis with this treatment plan in hand. And what we realized, especially being a healthcare professional already, we grew up with my sister as a physician. I'm a pharmacist by background. My wife's actually a nurse. So my mom was really surrounded by a family of clinicians, right? And she was lucky to have that. But despite that, we noticed that there was a huge gap, when we tried to determine what that next really cycle of treatment was. We really realized that she wasn't actually getting the prescriptions she needed, and she was really due for that next round of medication, right? So I almost had to, fight with the health system to say, look, she's on this clinical trial. She's due for this treatment now. You really need to get, an appointment so that she gets this prescription. Believe it or not, and so this hopefully illustrates the type of care coordination that is needed for these complex medications, the types of insight that's needed, the types of management, clinical management and oversight that's needed that really wasn't present, right? So the medications are super complex. They need very high touch in terms of being able to essentially be able to take care of the patient per plan. And really, if you don't have the people involved that are the clinicians, that are the experts in care delivery, you're going to lose out on the coordination, right? So if outsiders, large retail chains and mail order pharmacies are responsible for the care, it's really going to make it even more complex for health systems to manage that care coordination that's needed. So I'll pause there to see if that made sense.
Yeah, and it just makes me think of, because one of the things that came out of that research was frustration among health systems that they feel like they've got this captured patient, and I mean that in the best possible terms, right? Where they're moving forward with the care plan as you talked about, and they're communicating with the physician, and then boom, the script gets offloaded to, not going to name any names, but one of the big boxes, right, to handle from there, and they feel like there's that loss of control. So what I'm wondering is, well, I mean, maybe address that as well. But if you were to look forward and think about, a few years down the road, where you see this power dynamic landing, Is it with the payer? Is it with the health system? In some ways, is it with the manufacturer? Probably less so there. But how do you see all of this playing out?
Yeah. So I'm a glasses half full type of individual. I think all of us, the different players, are really trying to do the right thing here, and even on the payer side, the big box retailer side, and obviously the provider side, which is the health system in this case. We're all trying to do the right thing, right? We're trying to make sure the patient really gets what they need, and really has that positive clinical outcome. But what I think is really missing is the incentives are misaligned. As we're trying to care for this patient, right? The incentives on the payer side, the PBM side, the provider side really are not aligned, right? And so where Longitude RX really thinks the future is really an integration and transparency. And that's why, would love to touch on the technology side later in our discussion, but it really is about integrating the different data sets, really having transparency across the continuum of care that's needed to really solve for this issue. And I think if we do that, we can actually get a win-win-win across the board for all the players that are trying to collaborate, really, to make sure the patient is getting what they need, right? And the support that the patient needs. So I really think it's about the interoperable platforms, the data sharing frameworks. And you really see examples of this already. John, I think some of the popular kind of movements out there around transparency and integration really, Mark Cuban's Cost Plus drug program. There's a PBM called Capital RX that's out there that's doing some great work. Some of our own health systems that made up Longitude RX are really part of the investor group as well for Capital RX. But essentially, there's a lot of good things being done by different companies, and I think Longitude RX sees its role really helping health systems leverage their technology, leverage the data analytics capabilities that we're developing, and really create a connective tissue between health systems, between the patients and the providers, and the payer side to really solve this problem, which isn't going away. If you look at the FDA pipeline, specialty pharmacy is not just growing quickly, but it's really here to stay, right? So 85% of the FDA pipeline is considered specialty meds, believe it or not. And if you really look at even 50% of that is actually considered orphan and rare disease meds. So more than 50% of the FDA pipeline is really these orphan and rare disease medications, which are the ultra specialty medications, right? So I think it's not this movement is not slowing down, and our hope as Longitude RX is to really assist health systems to be able to take care of the patients that are being prescribed these medications.
Well, and in my homework, I saw the word partner quite a few times, and you're partnering with health systems and working with them. So, I guess let's jump ahead and get into it. Maybe even if you have some examples, how are you partnering with health systems? What does that relationship look like? And then, if you can, talk a little bit about that application of technology to close some of those gaps that we were talking about.
Yeah, great question. So, we're Longitude RX is really a company built for health systems by health systems, right? And we don't just say that. Our ownership structure is really these five health systems that came together and invested to create Longitude RX. So, Michigan Medicine, Novant, Providence, Baylor Scott and White Health, and Memorial Hermann really came together. So, some of the largest health systems in the country really, I think combined, they represent more than 60 to $70 billion in net patient service revenues between the five health systems. And so, really, they wanted to create a solution that really is truly for health systems by health systems. And the idea is within these partnerships that we're working on, the idea is to keep the value that is created where the care happens, right? So the care is happening in the health system space. We want to try to keep that value within the space. And so we're really, focused on developing a model that, it really isn't a competitive model. It's one that really is focused on health systems, right? So we're not opposed to other health systems doing this work on their own. We're hoping to really create a movement towards this health system ownership of the value chain, of the specialty pharmacy value chain. And then I'll touch on the technology side. We recently partnered with a company called Innovacer. It's a company that's really valued in multi-billion, a multi-billion-dollar valuation. A tech company that's really focused on AI and automation, and really taking kind of the data fabrics of these health systems, and really helping connect the gaps between the payer and provider side that we often see present today. So we're really excited about that partnership with Innovacer, and really developing a solution that we can go to market with, that really is going to help health systems really, be forward thinking and own the patient journey, the specialty pharmacy patient journey, more holistically. So that, example I mentioned about my mom really getting that treatment plan, we're making sure that, hey, no matter where that medication is able to be filled, it's really not about the revenue side. It's really making sure that, entire patient journey is well managed, and there's visibility around it. So even if it's a, health system owned dispensation that happens, or let's say due to some payer driven reasons, the medication has to be dispensed at, Optum Rx or wherever it may be. We just want to make sure that that entire journey has oversight, clinical oversight, and you're able to do all of the different things that you need to do. And we think that's only possible with technology and data integration. So I think, long answer, but I think the future is really in that, transparency, connectedness, and really having a technology backbone that, helps health systems take care of their patient journey.
So if I understand things, Jigar, and maybe I don't want to put capabilities in Longitude's hands that maybe they don't have, but if I understand things in the scenario that I talked about, where the script goes, let's say it's Optum Rx, as you said, is it still the health system, and through the partnership with Longitude and, as you said, Innovacer, that you're still tracking that patient journey, that regardless of where the script is, as you said, the revenue would be nice. It is a big revenue generator. Specialty pharmacy can be for a health system, but
Right.
that it's not just lost, which is what a lot of PharmDs have told me in the past. That they just get so frustrated. They're like, we've got this patient, they're managed, and then all of a sudden, poof, they're gone. Is that one of the things that you're trying to through technology, and then nuts and bolts? How do you actually do that?
Right. John, it definitely, from your question, I can tell you definitely understand this specialty pharmacy patient journey and the gaps really well. It really is exactly as you stated, right? So obviously, our hope is, we think that if the entire patient care is really staying in the health system and the health system side, that would be ideal, right? But there's going to be lots of different cases where, depending on the pairs, you're going to have that script filled elsewhere. But with our platform, we want to make sure that journey is tracked completely end to end. Why do we want to track it? Because, hey, let's say that patient needs a prior authorization, which all of these meds need a prior authorization, right? You're creating really a lot of friction and complexity when that, outside pharmacies then reaching back out to your provider office demanding X, Y, and Z to complete that prior auth. And it really creates a fragmented experience for the patient and a delayed care delivery experience. But if you're monitoring this holistically, then our team, our Longitude Rx team, the health system pharmacy team, can really be intervening to make sure that the prior auth is completed, to make sure all of the questions are answered, so that the physician side, which is already strained as is, really is not having to deal with prior auths and other aspects of these specialty pharmacy medications, right? So once they've seen the patient and prescribed the medication, we really want to make sure that our team, along with the pharmacy teams, are really managing and coordinating that care really well. I mean, there might be other issues like financial assistance may be needed, right? And often patients experience financial toxicities because they really can't afford to pay for these medications. That's another, one of many different friction points that happens often with these medications, because they're all high cost, they're all high complex, clinically complex medications, as well as financially expensive for patients to manage and take care of. So this is something that we want to make sure we're assisting, regardless of where that medication has to be filled, because we're trying to coordinate a better outcome, a better clinical outcome. And this is why I think there could be this scenario of a win-win created, because if you're really creating better clinical outcomes through this type of work, you're essentially going to reduce that total cost of care, and really help the payer side with some of their incentives in managing the appropriateness for the therapies as well as the cost of care.
So do you feel like, now maybe this question comes a little bit out of left field, but do you see yourself as in that partnership with the health system as being more almost like a patient advocate, like using the technology? Because I've long ago thought about this fragmentation issue, and everybody knows that's at the root of so many problems in healthcare in the U.S. and healthcare delivery and payment is around this fragmentation issue. And as anybody who has to use healthcare, I had my shoulder fixed earlier this year. I'm going to go through all these different kinds of examples. And the more complex, and the shoulder's not that complex,
Right.
but the more complex, the more frustrating that it can be for patients, for family members. The example you gave with your mom, I'm sure that was, you know, just looking at a mountain in front of you when you get this diagnosis
Right.
and trying to figure out how to help her. Anyway, back to my question: do you see yourself as an organization being more in that patient advocate role?
Yeah, I think ultimately that is what we're trying to do. We're starting obviously with the health system side, because that's who created Longitude Rx. Those are the owners that we want to work with. But ultimately, it comes down to the patient, right? So we do truly see ourselves as that patient advocate. I think that's well stated, and really focused on, if we need to connect with the payer side in the near future, we're going to be open to that, right? So if we want to create different types of connections, even from a technology standpoint, that enables us to do the work better with the pharmaceutical side, and being able to find the patients that need that care, then we're going to be open to that as well. I think that is where you're going to get, kind of the real magic happening, is that integration between the different players in this space, because as I said, this is not only just another another set of medications that are coming to the market, but these are the medications that are really improving clinical outcomes. Care really is different. I mean, if you look at oncology over the years, it's more and more, depending on the different diagnosis, it's becoming more of a chronic condition, right? That can be managed for the long term, but it's going to need these types of innovative pharmaceuticals to be able to continue to manage that disease state appropriately, right? So I think we've had really incremental improvements in care delivery over the years. But as you're seeing some of these cell and gene therapies, these orphan and rare disease medications, and these ultra specialty medications come to market, I think the actual diagnosis, or the actual prognosis, is quite different than it used to be. So we definitely see ourselves as that advocate for the patient to really, to really help them improve care.
That's Thank you for that. One of the things that when I hear about, we'll say, newer companies and the use of technology, especially around in specialty pharmacy, um, I'm curious about your business model, your revenue model. How do you grow Longitude RX? We talked about your, being a patient advocate in one sense, but certainly you're working with and for these health systems where you have these partnerships. How do you make money? How do you scale the business? How do you grow it? Kind of put
Yeah.
your CEO hat on in this sense and thinking about it financially. And the reason why I ask the question is I run across in my role at Darwin, I get so many emails and just the things that we write about new technologies, new companies, new partnerships. And the first question that always comes to my mind is, all right, what's the business model? It's great that we all want to um, work on the fragmentation issue or be patient advocates or all these things, but what does it look like for growth? And I'll stop talking and let you answer the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say this is the booth side of you that's asking the
That's right.
question,
That's
right?
right.
And
It comes through.
I'll
It always comes through.
and I'll use the Kellogg side in answering the question, right? So
Great. Perfect.
I think that that's a great question. Obviously, our business model is really focused on health systems, as you stated, first and foremost. So our owners who created Longitude RX, the great thing is they're our first set of customers, right? So we almost have a starting captive customer base within the owners that created Longitude RX. And
And
so I
and
think
five
the
major systems, I might
five
add, as
major
you said.
systems,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's a really unique and well thought out structure to really enable a startup company to excel very quickly, and really go to market able to solve the challenges that we face, right? So this was very specifically designed. There was actually 2 years of work before I was hired on to really design this offering, right? So our first set of customers is that investor base that started us off, and we're lucky to have that customer base as a starting point. And this model has been really attractive right off the bat, as you can imagine, right? So even before we've gotten to our 1 year mark, we're about, let's call it 9 months old today, is, we've already had non-investing customers interested in us and started joining us. We've had a small health system in Arizona already join us on Vita Health. We're very lucky to have them on board as well. So we've really had a lot of attraction towards this health system driven, health system owned model that I think really hit on a nerve in the market, right? And the market has seen a lot of non health system owned solutions from different vendors. And I think, people over time just seem to really value the fact that, they're building equity within the health system side with our model versus building it outside of the health system side, right? If there's other competitors of ours are owned by private equity groups, some are owned by the payer side. So we're really creating a movement towards health system ownership and driving that, overall value that we're creating within the health system side. So I think that's where our economics, sit. But I think in the future, like I was touching on earlier, there could be collaborations between the payer side, between pharmaceutical manufacturers and us, because I think we really are trying to solve a problem here that is going to be really important to solve for all players. And everyone's kind of looking to solve this with their own incentives in line. And I think Longitude RX can be that function that sits in between to really be able to bridge the gaps, right? And really, what we're trying to do is create a solution that serves as the bridge between the pharmaceutical side, the payer and PBM side, as well as the health system side, to create some transparency and integration so that we can make sure that the patient journey on these specialty medications is managed well. And when you do that, I think it's going to create a win win across the board for everyone. And we really think that's a problem worth solving for. our health systems came together 2 years ago to really think about what the gaps were that they were seeing in the space, and they really wanted to create this solution and bring it to market to solve those gaps.
You know, you mentioned the pharmaceutical companies. A thought experiment: head of market access for, I don't know, say Merck, their oncology group comes to you and says, "Got these five health systems, started you off. We want to work with you." Um, and as pharma is known to do, these kind of open-ended, tell us about your problems. We want to work with you, right? What is your response? And just assuming that you haven't had these conversations, but what is your response? A major pharma company comes to you and says, "We see the benefit of health system owned specialty pharmacy. We see the kind of work that you're trying to do." What is your response to that outreach?
Yeah, great question. So we actually are already having these types of discussions, John, as you're predicting well. And one of the things that, again, I think while the top layer of incentives are misaligned, it seems like on the surface at least, I honestly am a believer that these incentives, when you go a little bit deeper, they're really not misaligned, right? So if you think about pharmaceutical manufacturers, what are they trying to do with their innovations? They're trying to find the patients that actually need those medications, right? That's an economic win for them. I think historically they haven't chosen to work with one specific health system. Why? Because it really represents just one, right? Even if you're a large health system, you're a regional health system. And they've chosen to work the reason why they've chosen to work with some national pharmacies and payers historically is because they just have to work with that one and not many, and really trying to be efficient and create that point of access to be as efficient as possible for them, right? And so through my conversations, what I'm learning is, if Longitude Rx really gets to be able to scale the way we want to scale. And we're lucky, as I said, to have that head start with our five major health systems. Really, we're going to be able to bring in a much larger value proposition to the pharmaceutical side in being able to find the right patients, being able to integrate and look at our data, because it's really the health systems that have the patient and clinical data, right? And provide value in a manner that pharmaceutical industry can actually benefit tremendously from, right? Not just in the upstream of finding the patient, but really even the downstream value of once the treatment has been started and initiated, what are the true outcomes of that treatment? What are the things that patients are experiencing difficulties with? And really being able to collect data. And again, all of that, the reason why it's not happening today is because no one really is trying to work together to make that happen, right? But if you have that technology bridge in between, that is willing to work with both sides agnostically to just again ensure that care delivery happens in a seamless manner, then I think there is that incentive and someone focused on doing that work on a regular basis to make that happen. And I think we don't really see too many players in the market that are trying to do that today. And we again are not trying to be competitive against them. We're just trying to solve for a problem that exists for our health systems, especially our investors at the very least, right? Our initial set of investors see this as a problem. So we're trying to solve for that. But we think that there is much more of a attraction towards this model because others also are experiencing the same problem. I think health systems, when you again start meeting with them and learning more, you realize we're all having the same set of problems and issues. And so I think this model is really going to be, it really reflects well on the thought process that went behind the model.
Well, one of the things that you've said, I think you used the word scalability, and I can tell you that we work at Darwin, we work with a lot of pharma companies that are trying to figure out, unlock the IDN code, right? Like how to figure out how to work with them. And a common concern, if you think about how, let's just take this to the back to the Kellogg world of marketers. Marketers, they want to be able to scale. They want to be able to, yes, of course, micro target and do all of those other things, but it almost feels inefficient to say, I'm going to go to, Honor Health down the street and I'm going to do some kind of patient identification program for our new cholesterol drug. Let's say they're going to try to do a population health program, and it feels very labor intensive on both sides. In fact, we're doing a study right now that measures this exact thing. If you're able to deliver on that, just even starting, as you said, with north of $60 billion in net patient revenue from just these five systems, then that's going to be attractive, I would think. And again, it feels weird sometimes talking about this in marketing terms or the financial terms, but the reality is, as you said, Jigar, these companies, they believe in their products, but they feel like there's so many people who could be helped that aren't being helped, that aren't being identified, or
Right.
for whatever reason. And so I could see how that would be quite attractive for a manufacturer to come to Longitude Rx and say, how can we work with you to be more effective in getting our medications out there, but also continuing to manage that patient, right?
Right. Exactly. No, I think you touched on this. Said differently, maybe I think the change in healthcare always moves. They always say that moves at the pace of trust, right? So it's very difficult to go at each health system and really try to do something individually within each of these health systems, right? They all have their own governance. They all have their own financial pressures, timelines, different politics and different layers of leadership, and so it's really hard to move through that type of type of a challenge, right, or environment. And I think that actually is again something that sets Longitude RX apart and actually gives us an advantage because really these health systems came together not only to establish Longitude RX, but if you look at our structure and model, our health system CEOs are actually the board members that serve on the board of Longitude Health, right? So I think having the CEO level really convinced that there is a different way to collaborate, there is a different way to solve for different challenges, and it's not just a merger and acquisition, right? You only see M&A activity between health systems, right? But this is truly a different way to collaborate to face the challenges that health systems are collectively facing. And really, I think it gives Longitude an advantage to move a little bit faster than an outside vendor coming in, really trying to move individually, whether it's pharma or the payer side or just an outside service provider coming into each of these health systems, trying to move through the different layers. Not saying we're not experiencing this in the beginning stages of our journey, but our model really is set up in a way to solve for this and move with speed, unlike that of that is experienced by others.
Well, as we're getting to our lightning round, Jigar, but I do have one final question, and that is, as CEO, we're now in mid October. Was it the 20th today? We're mid October. I'm sure you're thinking about 2026. What are the big, top three, top two things that you're looking to get accomplished next year? So let's say over the next 18 months. What's tops on your radar? What is it that you'd like to see get done?
Yeah, I think initially in a startup, momentum is big, right? So, we were blessed to have these large health systems behind us, right? And given this starting customer base, and we, just want to show positive execution on these different customers that we have right off the bat. We've started at the same time that we're trying to execute on our current customer base because of the nature of outside in interest. Let's say in Longitude Rx, there's been a lot of interest from outsiders to join as either investors or customers. So the top two things are: number one, execute on our current member slash customer base, and number two would be to be able to take on the interest that's already present in the market. We don't want to be able to say no to that, right? But we want to be able to take on that interest that's present with speed and execution. So I think to really build towards that momentum, so that we can carry it forward in the following years. But I think that initial execution is very important. And, so far we're proving that we're ahead of our business plan that was presented in to get the approval for this company. So we're doing well. We're ahead of the business plan. We're executing so far, but we just want to continue that momentum so that we can continue to grow.
Actually, I got one more question.
Yeah.
Is it exciting to be part of a startup? I mean, we didn't go into a lot of your background, but you've done some pretty huge things with big systems and OU Health, and right. So now you're in a startup. Really, how does it feel?
It's really, really exciting. It's completely starting from scratch. I was, working for companies that had, things set up for you, right? And you had to just execute on different opportunities. But this is really set up completely de novo. Just really things like even having your HRIS system not in place, right? And thinking about making those decisions and choosing, hey, we're going to go with Workday to have that as our HRIS system. I mean, these are small experiences, but really exciting to be able to make those decisions, build out the team. Longitude Rx has a team of over 40 people already. So very exciting to have this kind of small startup feel, yet at the same time, we're not really a small startup, right? We're given kind of this head start with some of the largest health systems in the country. So really exciting to build and grow this very, very quickly, and be able to continue to execute. But I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed every minute of it. Seems like it's been way more than 9 months that I've been here, because it's a definitely a 24/7 job, but it's something that I'm enjoying definitely at the moment.
Awesome. All right, here we go. Lightning round. We
Awesome.
just need a one word or short answer to each one of these. I've got 5 of
Sure.
them. All right, ready? Here we go. One technology or app that you just can't live without.
Uh, you're gonna get me on this. Chat GPT
Well,
lately,
yeah, I hear you.
the pro version.
The pro, I hear you. One emerging therapy area that you're most excited about.
I think oncology continues to be impressive in terms of its growth and the things that we're doing, especially given what I said earlier, oncology.
A leadership book or mentor who shaped your leadership approach.
Yeah, it's actually recently I read this book called Unreasonable Hospitality, and I don't know if you read that book. There you go.
It's up there
So
somewhere.
it's up there somewhere. I know it's been there, but I've really enjoyed that concept, especially in terms of what we're doing today, and really hoping my team reads it as well.
One word to describe the future of specialty pharmacy.
I think technology and transparency. 2 words.
That's fine. And then
You
how
can
will
just
you,
put technology if you want.
technology? All right. And finally, how will you know Longitude RX has achieved its mission, or is at least on its way to achieving its mission?
Really making patient impact and having those patient stories that coordinate the care better, and really focusing on that as our north star, because it's really the families and the patients that experience all of this fragmentation.
Excellent. Well, Jigar, thanks so much for being a part of Healthcare Rounds. For listeners who want to learn more about Longitude RX or want to get in touch with you, how do they do that? Where do they go?
They can email me at jigartucker@longituderx.org, and there's also a website that we have, longituderx.org is the website. I might have to send that to you.
No, that's good. That's good. Well, thanks again. That's it for today's episode. I'm John Marchica, CEO of Darwin Research Group. If you like today's episode, please rate, review, and don't forget to subscribe to Healthcare Rounds. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next round.